everybody, welcome back to In Stitches with Mary. I am Mary Maurer, and I want to show you a little project I featured at my October club. This is what I call my fun spiral table topper. Again, it's another octagon. I know I featured an octagon last month, but I think this one you'll see is just a little bit different. If the spiral in the middle is a little too much, you can always go with just a solid center. And I have in my directions, which are available here at Neil's, I have it for both types of centers here. So let me show you how this will go together. All right, to make this fun table topper, we're going to start with two 4-inch squares, one of light fabric, one of dark fabric. You're going to lay those right sides together, and you will go ahead, draw your diagonal. Okay, we're going to draw a diagonal on there, and you're going to stitch 1/4 of an inch on each side of that diagonal. When you get done, you're going to cut them in half right down the center, and we're going to press them to the dark side. Now you're going to do this twice, so you're going to need 2 dark and 2 light fabrics, 2 4-inch squares of dark, 2 4-inch squares of light, and make 4 half-square triangle units. You're then going to press, like I said before, to the dark side, and we're going to put this into a pinwheel block. Your pinwheel block will look like this, and now we need to turn this into an octagon. Now I've come up with a measurement. We don't have a ruler for an octagon. I've come up with a measurement for this, and it's really quite simple. You're going to measure in 1 1/4 inches from each corner on the seam, not 1/4 of an inch from each side, but 1/4 of an inch in from each corner on the diagonal. So let me show you. You're going to measure in and put a little mark right there, and then we're going to trim that starting at our side seams. So we're going to trim from here to there, and you'll trim from here, from the point to the other side seam. Now you're not going to see that white on white, but that's what you're going to do. In 1 1/4 inch from the quarter, 1 1/4 inches from each corner, place a dot and trim out to the side seams. When you get that done, you're going to have an octagon that looks like this. Okay. We're going to begin our spiral effect by using 2-inch by 6-inch strips of fabric. You're going to need 4 light and 4 dark for each layer, and there's 3 layers. The first layer is 6 inches long. The second layer will be 8 inches long, and the third layer will be 10 inches long. All in my directions again. Your first seam to put this on is you're going to line up a light to a light. If you can see how that is, we're going to extend the short end of that strip 1/4 of an inch past the seam on our octagon, and you're going to sew that right sides together. You're going to start at the short end of the strip and only sew halfway down the side of the octagon. You want to leave this side open. All right, so let's pretend that that is stitched. What we need to do, our next strip is going to get sewn on here. What we need to do is to trim this edge. And what I want you to do is to find the diagonal on a ruler, put that diagonal, the 45-degree diagonal I should say, on your seam. Match that up, and that is where you're going to trim that off. You'll just take your rotary cutter and cut right along that edge. Now we have a nice straight seam going across there. This one will get sewn on here. Make sure it comes all the way past that point. These strips are a little bit longer than what you're going to need. That's okay, because we're going to trim this side off the same way once that's sewn on. 45 degrees on the seam line, and you're going to trim off here. Your next strip is going to get sewn on here the same way. Are you starting to see the pattern We're going to go around in this fashion, this spiral fashion. Going to get all the way to the end, and then our last strip, remember we only stitched this halfway. Our last strip is going to get placed underneath so that this strip can then get stitched down here. I have one that is to that point. Let me show that to you. So here is our center pinwheel. We've got 7 sides on there now, if you can see them. We have the 7 sides. We just need to add in our 8th side. This side was only stitched part way, so we're going to pull that back. This side would be trimmed, and then this one get laid right in there. We'll sew that one on, and then this one will get sewn across here as well. So we have our first row done. Now ignore that. Our next row, the second row, is going to start the same way. You are going to start sewing. Again, match up the short end of your strip with the same color, the matching fabric there, and we're going to start and only sew part way. You'll trim this one so that the next strip will be sewn on here. You can start to see the spiral happening. If you don't see that, you're laying it in the wrong direction. So go ahead and start to look to make sure you have that spiral starting to happen. We're going to go all the way around, and then you're going to do one more row all the way around. So you'll have 3 of them, 3 rows of spirals. I want to show you how you can turn this into other colors as well. Here's one ready for the fall, but here's our 3 rows, 1, 2, and 3, and we've created our spiral effect. This is with the solid center, so that's always that option too if you don't want to get with the pinwheel in the middle. What's left to do is to add our binding. Again, as in my September club, I showed you my faux binding or the fake binding, and I had you stitch that on. We have, let me back up. We have 1.5 inch strips of fabric, and you can cut those between 10 and 12 inches. You want to make sure that it is a good inch past the length of our outside edges. So this is, again, a generous strip. You're going to go ahead and lay those on. We're going to stitch them on in the same fashion as we did here. So the first strip you're only going to sew halfway across, and then go ahead and lay these. Now the fold is towards the center, the raw edges along the edge of the matching the raw edges on our front. Okay, and you're going to keep going all the way around. The last strip, when you get that far, is going to be laid underneath of this one. We'll sew that on, and then we'll finish sewing this seam here. So you'll go all the way around, trim these off when you get done. They can be trimmed off now or later as you're going. And the last step is to cut your backing and your batting the same size as your quilt top. I don't have any fancy measurements other than to lay it on the fabric, use your rotary cutter, and cut your edges to match. Put them right sides together, so this will come out from underneath. We have all of our strips laid in place. Let's just imagine that we did that. And then you're going to lay this on top and stitch that right sides together. Make sure you leave that opening for turning. Trim your corners and turn that inside out. When you have it turned inside out, here's another example of one done. Remember that fake binding? It's actually a flange. So you're going to take that binding and press it to the front. You can see here how it overlaps in the corners, such as that. And all that's left to do is to do your top stitching. Again, I like to use the left edge top stitch foot. and we can get those for you here at the store. But just a regular presser foot will do the trick too. So get that pressed on and stitch that down. Again, let me bring back the original ones I had shown you. Here, my fake binding, the faux binding, I altered the colors. So you can change up your colors on that binding if you want to as well. And that's an option. Now I've shown you with the fall colors. What do you think of this for Christmas? Isn't that cute? We've got some peppermint, little peppermint going on. I found some peppermint buttons. I added that to the center, and it's a lot of fun to put these into different colors when you think about Easter and Valentine's Day. This is a fun one to add to that as well. So I hope you enjoyed this edition of In Stitches with Mary, and I hope to see you next month. As always, patterns for In Stitches with Mary are available here at Neil's Vacuum and Sewing Center. They are $5 a piece. If you are interested, give us a message. You can email us or give the store a call, and we can get those sent out to you. We can send by mail or by email. They come in a PDF format. So thank you, and hope to see you soon.